Leo ni siku ya clinic ya mfuko. Kila mtu ashike wallet yake na mkae kwa bench hapo polepole, msisukumane. We want to begin a series looking at investments and different age groups. What investments are suitable for people within different age brackets? And for us to get into that conversation, I've got two amazing gentlemen in studio with me today to give us wisdom and to point us in the right direction. First and foremost, economist Chachi Logutu. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Shukran.
It's good to have you.
Likewise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We also have change leadership coach Gilbert Angana. How are you doing?
Pastor James.
Karibu.
Asante sana.
Huyu fundi. Before we talk about CG age brackets, no. Yeah, even me, I need to look like you guys, man. Huyu fundi yuko hapo pia mimi nimpatie biashara.
The change expert.
The change expert should be around to talk to you on that. Great. You guys are looking amazing. Asanteni sana. Karibuni. So, different age brackets and investments. Let's look at 20 to 30 and maybe 30 to 40 if time allows. But I'm just wondering, 20 to 30 is where many people get a job. Wanaanza maisha, nanunua kamatres, na kameko, and you start life. I'm just wondering, do many people within that age bracket actually think of investments?
That's a good question, Pastor.
Yeah.
Not many people think about it, investments rather, that during that age period. Focus, probably they've just come out of campus, they're trying to enter into the career world. So investments is right at the bottom of their pyramid in terms of priority things to consider. But that is ultimately the right time to start investing. Remember, at that point you have human capital. You have like 20, 30 years ahead of you to work to earn that income. So, and you can look at it differently in two ways. There's the aspect of human capital, which you can monetize over the years that will be working, and then the financial capital, which now tends to be lower at that point in time, but then gradually increases as human capital now comes lower as you head to retirement. So probably it's now to start investing so that you can now be able to increase that financial capital, and that's where the investments come in. Yeah.
Why do you think many people at that age don't really consider investment as something of a priority? Is it that they don't have the information, or is it just an attitude?
I think both, because at that age, people usually say that they have all the time.
Yeah.
So they can actually just figure out about other things later on. So they have all the time, but the only thing that they realize they don't have is actually they don't have money, enough money to actually just move into a space where they say that they want to jump into investment. And then also that notion that you have to have a lot of money for you to invest. So it's actually an idea around the attitude and also the knowledge. Because there are two things at that age that you need to be able to figure out. One is for you to be able to grow even as you invest. So growing means that there's an aspect of savings, because remember, you are just starting up. There is no financial base. So you have to grow your base. At the same time, also find opportunities on how you can be able to invest. And that's why, for me, especially for the young people that I engage, first is to just support them in terms of their savings culture. Because once they develop their savings culture, then the investment culture becomes like a routine later on.
Okay.
So for them to grow, they have to save. So that's where now we have very many options of savings. We have banks that you can save. You have now insurance that you can save, and many other circles and so on. So that way they help them in terms of building up a base. Then at least then they can be able to transfer part of their savings now to put into some investment vehicles that are there. Across different channels.
Okay. Do you agree with that notion?
Yes, absolutely. That they need to start somewhere. I mean, the savings is is the first step into investment. So if you don't get into savings, I mean, that investment culture might not be rooted in if you don't start with the savings. So I agree with the sentiments that savings needs to come first before now, and then they can now be able to explore the investment vehicles that are out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I find that as a country, we don't really have a saving culture. It's something that we are still trying to get a lot of people to get into. So for a person who's within that age bracket, how do they save? What are the avenues of saving? And also, because many of us, when we think of saving and then buying something. I'm saving and then I buy my 52-inch TV bonus. I'm saving and then I go see this nice tailor nishoneshi hata mimi zangu kama tatu. Yeah. So how do we change that mindset?
Yeah. So they have to have it in mind that I mean, it's investing, investing not for the spending, whereby some of these items that people get into, like the big screen, to show people in the village that you made it. I mean, probably you may now have to not go prioritize those kind of expenditure items here. But ideally, just look at it in a way that something might happen. What COVID showed us, that nothing is a guarantee during this period of time. So I think it needs to be ingrained in them that probably that even the job that they have landed, I mean, it's not a guarantee that they'll be there. So they may even start coming up with those, what we may call the emergency funds as an instance, just to enable them to have that savings culture. And then from there, they can even be able to start with investing vehicles. There are some which are as low as 500 shillings, some money market funds out there, which they can also more or less, like, it's to them is a saving. Like the income that they are getting, however small it is, they even start with the 500 shillings per month. And then at the end of the year, they can see it's come to 6,000, even without the return based on that. So that's a first step for them as they consider getting into other larger investment options here.
Okay. For somebody who has, let's work with figures. Yeah, let's look at this young man, young lady, they've landed their first job. Let's say maybe they're making 40K, 50K.
Yeah.
You know, so looking at that, somebody may say, I don't have anything I can save. You know, what can you tell them in terms of how they need to prioritize so that at least they save something? You know, he's talked about even if it's 500 bob. And sometimes we look at that 500 bob and we don't think it's much. But I'm relating that 500 bob to what you said earlier, that they have time. But we don't seem to see the time. I wish I could go back to 20, I'm telling you. The things I would do, oh my goodness. But at that point, I didn't see it. Yeah. So how do you help somebody at that age and with that kind of money to plan themselves? When you
there's an article that I read, I think this week on the dailies. Somebody was saying that they're earning 215,000, but they don't know where the money is going.
Come see me.
So they have no savings, they have no way of investing. And actually what you said earlier in terms of buying something, a TV or something, a flask. So there's a gentleman that and possibly he's watching, that I have been working with him.
Yes.
So at one point he came to me and he told me, "By the way, I've saved this much, but I think in my house, I just feel that I need to buy a big TV because I'm seeing my son playing on my phone a lot of time. So I just want to buy for him a big TV so that he can actually see cartoons and play maybe." But you see, that's an excuse that we always create out of lifestyle situation.
It was not for his son, it was for him.
Yes. So that's an excuse we create out of lifestyle situations because we want to move to a certain level of lifestyle, especially when we are not ready to move into that space. So there's nothing wrong with buying maybe a big screen or so at some point when you are ready, and of course when you have taken care of other critical areas like savings and investments and so on. So for a person, I mean, whichever, even 40,000 is actually a lot of money. So whichever amount that you earn, I think there's an appreciation that this is what you have now.
Yeah.
So then your life needs to be budgeted around that amount, including your savings aspect. So when you're talking about you're earning 40,000 and you're staying in a house that is 30,000, so then you will not have an aspect of savings, and you'll not invest, because if you can't save, you won't invest. So it's just for you to budget with that amount. Where can you be able to stay, so that then your rent does not eat into some other aspect of your savings and also investing? How will be your monthly budget for your household, so that then you don't end up spending everything that you're actually earning?
Yeah.
Because what I usually say is, we are not fixed assets as human beings. If you're a person who has an ambition, definitely you will grow from 40,000 to 50 to at some point you will grow into that. So you must be able to appreciate that this is where you are, and budget your life around that, including the savings aspect, so that then you are able to have, if an emergency comes in and you earn 40,000, will you say that you earn 40,000 so you cannot take care of your emergency? So those aspects need to be planned, and ensure that at least you have a basket for savings that will drop into your investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do young people overcome this fake it until you make it ideology, where there's so much pressure? You want to live a certain kind of lifestyle because that's what people want to see. And so, like he's saying, maybe you're earning that 40,000, but you're living in a house. You have to live in an apartment. Mi siwezi kaa. Kuna places siwezi kaa. Nafanya job. So you end up living in an apartment. You're paying 25,000, 30,000 a month, like a tiny 1-bedroom place you're calling an apartment, but just so that you look like you come from a certain area. You always Uber, you don't use mathres. And so at the end of the month, even before the end of the month, you've finished everything. So you keep borrowing to portray this kind of lifestyle, because I find that a lot of young people don't understand delayed gratification, and they don't understand planning for tomorrow. They want it now, and they want it now, and they want it good. Tomorrow will take care of themselves. How do you break that attitude? What do you do if you're a young person and that's what you're caught into?
Yeah, I think it boils down to discipline. They need to have a disciplined approach in terms of their budget, in the sense that whatever amount they're getting, be it 50,000 or 40,000, probably, 10,000 of that needs to, they don't have it in the sense that it's directed towards an investment vehicle. You might have a standing order with the bank, or you might channel it to these investment vehicles that are out there, such that you know that whatever I'm budgeting is coming in as my income. Already 10% of a certain amount of that has gone into investment.
Yes.
So you just remain with 30,000, and with that, it won't give you some leeway of getting into some of those neighborhoods that you want, or getting into some Uber, or this kind of investments or this kind of expenditure that are not quite, I may deem it not necessary at this point in time. Yeah. And remember, whatever age that you are in, you can think about it as starting to plan for retirement. It's an eventuality, that ultimately, if God gives you the years, you'll retire, and at that point you might not have that income. So this is the point that now you start that journey. As people say, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and these are the steps that you need to make, even within the first month that you're getting your salary. So I think that's the way to look at it. But as you said, people, that delayed gratification is a notion to most people, but that needs to be ingrained in them such that they can start with the budget, start saving kidogo kidogo too in any given month for the retirement. That's the end in mind, as people say. Just work with the end in mind, and then you can now actualize on a monthly basis.
Okay. He mentioned money markets. What other avenues are available for people within this age group who may not have a lump sum, to throw into an investment? So what other options do they have in terms of saving, or even in terms of little investments here and there that they can jump into immediately once they start earning something?
Okay. So I think, as I said, the first is first of all since they are starting up, and also you don't want to be also jump into an ambitious, I say I want to jump into a place where I'm earning a lot of interest and so on. I think first is to develop your patience around your savings. So there are savings in insurance companies, there are savings in circles, there are savings in banks. So whichever one that really finds they find suitable, because savings account gives them some bit of interest at the end of the year, which is not much, of course, as you start.
At least it's something.
But at least it's something.
Yeah.
Then once they build up a base, they can actually then move it into now some form of investments that then have some little bit of higher income, like money markets he's talked about. So it's more of a savings, but also somehow a savings with some little bit of a higher interest than the savings accounts in various institutions and so on.
Yeah.
So when you've built up also your base in terms of money markets and so on, you can actually move into another space, another investment vehicle that maybe that earns you a little bit more. I mean, they are corporate bonds. Once you build up a base, because there's, in most of the corporate bonds, you find that there is a minimum amount that you need to invest in, and also many other vehicles as a young person. But I think it has to be systematic in terms of pulling in and investing into vehicles that will give you a higher income as you go by. But I think there are two things that is mentioned that maybe I need to just briefly quick. Number one is the aspect of retirement. And what I usually like to tell young people is, I mean, you need to set your debt for retirement. So
we don't want to retire. We want to work forever.
So many of us usually just want to work until the normal date of retirement that is set.
Yeah.
But in reality is you might not reach there. You might not reach there not because you'll die, but because of the dynamics of different organizations. So there might be retrenchment, there might be what. So you find yourself being pushed by life's circumstances. But if you say that I am starting off and I want to retire at 35, like for me, that was my goal, that I really wanted to retire at 35 so that then I move into my own practice and so on. And I actually did at 36.
Lay hands on me.
So you must be able to retire. And remember, it's there in the Bible. If we look at Proverbs 13:16.
Yes.
That talks about a wise man thinks ahead, but a fool doesn't, and even brags about it. So it's something that you need to be able to plan and say, this is when I want to retire. So what does it mean?
But then even with that, I think the whole concept of retirement, when we talk retirement, some of us, our point of reference is our fathers. Waliacha kazi wakaenda nyumbani. So when you mention retirement, somebody thinks, I don't want to retire. I don't want to just go home and sit and do nothing. So I think that whole aspect of retirement also, for this generation, we need to redefine it. What do we mean by retire? I want to retire by 35. So are you saying at 35 you takatu kwenda oshago unamkaga asubuhi unakatu hapo nje? You count your cows if you are able to buy any. And life goes on. Or what do we mean by retirement? Because I think that definition also helps in seeing a picture that I can start working towards.
Yeah. So when I say now invest in your retirement, it means that as you invest in your retirement debt, then there is an aspect of investing in your vision. Because what you're saying is after retirement is you now drive your vision.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want to do after your date of retirement, whether your date of retirement is 50 years. So what happens after 50 years?
Yeah.
Will you now sit back and then start a hardware, a shop in whatever? So those two have to go hand in hand. So if you say, for example, for me is I wanted to retire at 35. So that means that I had also to invest in my personal vision in terms of education, in terms of professional space, so that as I hit 35, then I know I'm ready to actually now venture into my space.
Yeah.
The space of passion, the space of my vision and so on. And I now drive my vision out of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a vision that you're starting off a business and so on, but something that you know eventually will ensure that you're happy waking up in the morning, you're making money in the process out of it, and so on. So that's the whole aspect around. You need to be clear in terms of when are you retiring. You've started your job at 22, 2020. When do you want to retire? 40 years. So what do you need to do in investing in yourself in terms of personal development and professional development between now and 40 years? so
Okay.
that it's not a shock that you are here 40 years, you're half-time, or what people say half-time, and you're shocked.
Yes.
Life begins at 40, so
I'm
now
telling
what am
you.
I going to do?
Yeah.
I don't have a vision, but because you never invested in it. Yeah.
Financial Clinic, we are looking at different age groups and investment. We're focusing on the 20s to 30s. Maybe we'll get into 30s and 40s. If you have any questions, send it in on 20316 for SMS or WhatsApp 0786 316 316. A question before we talk about the vision part. Yeah? Somebody's asking, what about those of us who don't have fixed employment, permanent employment? We do small businesses here and there. What can you tell a young man, young woman within this age bracket, and that is what they're doing?
Yeah, and that's also the reality in Kenya.
Yeah.
That not many people are into full-time employment. They get this, we call them vibarua, part-time employment here and there. So even in that case, you might, a portion of that you are receiving, you may just put it into savings. I know we hear stories about people in say the Gikomba places. People, whatever money they get, they have that discipline of now even sending it to a SACCO. So even that, they can also be able to pick those kind of habits of whatever money you're getting in. Obviously, it may not. Money is never enough, even for people who get millions. For sure, they'll not say that that's enough for them. So even to answer the query, even those part-time employment, they get some jobs. At least ensure that they have something to build the buffers, as Gilbert had earlier alluded to. Starting small, even with whatever small income that you get.
Okay, listen to this one. Maybe you can answer this. Pasi, what about my salary and budget? I earn 20,000, Bob. House rent is 6,000, Bob. Transport is 4,000, Bob. You may figure 10. Paying land at a SACCO, 3,000, Bob. You only 13. My siblings, 3,000, Bob, every month. You only 16. School fees, 2,500. I pay every month, and then bills, 2,000. How can I save with this kind of money? I've worked for 6 years, no investment.
So I think for that listener, one of the things that he needs to realize is that he's already saving and investing, because there's 3,000 that I say that they are paying for land.
Yes.
I mean, it's an investment, and it's good. I mean, if I look at that budget, I think it's more of a modest budget for that kind of an amount, because she's talking about 6,000 rent, which is perfect, and of course all the other expenses. So I think it's just now for the person to be a little bit patient, because then if imagine that 3,000, that if she wasn't paying for the land, where would it go? Possibly that will be her savings, and then that will move into an investment. So she's actually doing both. She's saving and investing at the same time, because she's paying for land.
Okay. So she should not be so hard on herself.
Yes. So that's why now
the
aspect
better
of
than somebody who's probably earning 100,000 and they're not doing anything.
Yes, and remember we talked about the knowledge and the attitude. So it's more of, sometimes when you feel that there is some amount that we're being deducted that goes towards a certain so it's the knowledge around it. So that's now what you're saying, you're already investing. So I think it's just for her to work out on how does she improve her income, maybe through other ways, so then she can be able now to put some amount for emergency, because as she doesn't have any amount for emergency. So that's where now she needs to really find ways of creating some emergency fund for herself.
The question of vision, is it important before I embark on either saving or investing? Is it important for me to have a vision why I'm doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. And realize that the age group that we're discussing today, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, I realized that even life goes on. By the time they start working, they get married a couple of years down the line, so they have college or university expenses for their children to start thinking about. Their parents, who they have been relying on their parents, now the parents obviously start winning themselves off them, and then it works the other way around, such that now you are the one now fending
Yes.
for the parents, the
Yes.
medical expenses. So there are those goals that you need to achieve. And to achieve these goals, funding for your kids, expenses, be it school expenses, for your parents, medical expenses. So you have to find like some investment plan that you know that after 5 years, probably there's be some school fees for my kids. After a long time, my parents will be calling me, I need some monies for medical expenses. So that means that now you need to think about areas of financing or funding these expenses that ultimately will come on your doors. So that's a fact of life. So that's important, that we need to keep in mind that as we grow, responsibility starts coming upon us. So even for the young people, they can't run away from that fact of life. So they might start now working backwards. Okay, which investment plans should I get myself into to probably meet expenses as they come in? So there could be a split of either the liquid assets, the money market funds, the SACCO, which is quite quick to liquidate in the event that these expenses comes up. Or you can now think for some longer term expenses, which now probably you might now get into some illiquid assets, which are a bit risky, high return, but probably you might cash it like 20, 30 years down the line. So that's where now you start thinking about the investment vehicles to pursue to achieve these goals that will come due.
Okay. So would you say at that age, are there some investments that you would advise somebody at that age? Hizo wachana nazo kwanza.
I can say that they can start looking at certain investments at that age. Because of that age, they have some ability to take on some risk as compared to somebody who is at 50, who's approaching 60 years, retirement year. So at least at a certain age, you have that ability to take on some additional risk. Probably you can start with what the listener said with that land investment. So at least even if some of these investments go belly up, meaning that this is Kenya, maybe some things might happen down the line. So you can now be able to work back and start again, unlike somebody who's in their 50s. So you can now get into risk investments. And even you can look at stocks. For instance, Safaricom right now is around 30 shillings. This stock was issued at 5 shillings. So already that was 2008. And right now is at 30 shillings. Obviously, it went 40 to 30, but it keeps on fluctuating. So somebody at this age bracket can get into probably stocks, and even as low as 3,000 shillings. Because if the stock is trading at 30 shillings and the minimum shares that you need to invest is 100, so as little as 3,000 shillings, you can even get into stocks investments. So probably just look at stocks. Bonds probably might not be feasible for them because the requirement is quite high. Something as minimum of 50,000 and some are high as 100,000, so might be quite off for them. But probably just start with some investments that they can now be able to absorb the risk because of their age bracket, unlike somebody who may not be able to have that capacity to absorb that risk.
Okay. I find that sometimes this age bracket, you find a lot of young people are very ambitious and they want get rich quick kind of thing. I've heard stories of people who've lost their money because they had Forex, my friend. Hey, friend. You can be a millionaire in a month. They go in there without any experience and they lose their cash. Others have thrown their weight into the betting scene. You know, I keep having prayer requests. People asking me to pray for them that they placed a bet. What would you say? What would you say about that?
I think it's, as you say, that requires prayer. But Churchill has talked about, I mean, looking at that vision, and remember you are young. In your 20s, between 20 to 30, if you are clear around your 30s and 40s and 50s, then this is the time to really make some drastic investment decisions. For example, at 20s, this is the time actually to take up your mortgage if you're working in a stable organization, because then you are able to take it for almost the maximum period. So that means that your repayment every month will be less, because you have maybe 20 years or 25 years. So that means your monthly repayment will be less for now. And as I said, if you're an ambitious person, then over the years you will grow your income. So that means then as you grow your income, you'll increase your level of repayment. And I just want to give an example. For example, me, I took my mortgage when I was in my 20s. And I just started working. Then when now I moved into different roles, I increased my repayment. So I was able to finish up, because initially I took it for 20 years, but I was able to finish up within 7 years. Because then I was able to, as I move into a different role, which has a higher income, then I increase my repayment. And then it helps in terms of reducing and I reduce the years. So that way then I was able to quickly do it. So mortgage is one of the areas. The second is there's this term lives for investment, and many insurance companies now do it for like 10 years minimum. So you can actually do it. You are in your 20s. If you do a term life for 10 years, you'll be in your 30s. So by the time it matures, this now forms part of your emergency fund, and also a little bit of investing on it, because in your 30s there are various things that you need. You need emergency funds and many other things to sort out, because that's when also family is coming on board and so on. So you need to be able to set yourself up for your 30s as early as your 20s.
Okay, listen to this other question. Good morning, Pasi. I'm earning 23K. I'm struggling to save 10,000 bob kwa bank. Alafu 2,500 in a sacco, but the remaining amount feels small, and parents at home are also looking up to me for support. Kiasi, I feel like I'm not living like my peers. Should I reduce my savings and fund my lifestyle now? Ama, how do I go about it?
At 23,000 salary and a combined 12,500. Wow. He or she is doing great. That's like 50%. 50% of their salary is getting into some form of savings and investments. So probably just that's quite fantastic. I won't even add anything. So probably just to look at, I don't know whether they are living with other people. We haven't heard about their rent or the other expenses that they are having, the bills. So it's just now boils down to what monthly expenditure that he or she is having to be able to absorb this, because at 50% of their income is into different savings. That's quite significant. And as he or she has correctly pointed, there are other competing needs that needs to be balanced. So probably they may need to slow down, look at other 10,000 into savings, another 2,500 into SACCOs, probably just split it into now investments, because all this seems to be like savings. So now she may now have to get into some investments based on this 12,500 that so far they are saving.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the 30 to 40. I know our time is almost gone, but maybe you can mention something, because for a good number of people, maybe this is the age you've started a family, you're beginning to grow in your career. So for somebody who in their 20s, they had not done anything, and now it's in their 30s and they're realizing, hey, okay, I need to start thinking, because now she has said we're expecting our first child. I have to think about all these things. Where would you advise them to begin? Because maybe they have a few coins to spare. They can maybe put aside 50,000 bob, 20,000 bob a month. Where would you advise them to start?
I think first is, if you prepared well, then it will be a good landing opportunity, because then at least you will have set up yourself, or you have emergency funds and so on and so on to take care of yourself. But if not, all is not lost, because then that means that you have to be a little bit more deliberate, especially in terms of now starting off in terms of your savings, and also investing in some investment options that are more easily liquidated. And that's why we talk about FDR, talk about money markets and so on, so that because you need emergency funds at that particular age, especially when now family is coming on board and so on. So you don't want to set yourself up into investments that are totally locked. And when something comes up, you are not able to take care of medical expenses if you don't have medical insurance. Something has come up that is not within the budget, you need to sort. So that aspect of savings needs to now, you need to be now more deliberate at that age if you are not deliberate earlier. And then now investing in easily liquidated options for now as you build up your emergency funds. And of course then critical also is if children come on board, I think it's important to have an education fund. I mean this, we view it in whatever way you view it, but I think it comes in handy 10 years, 12 years down the line, when I mean today, if people pay kindergarten 20,000-30,000, even in whatever, so you can imagine now
even 100.
Yes. So in the next 10-12 years, when you're moving your children in, children are growing into different spaces, so you'll need some amount, whether they're in public or what. You will need some funds to be able to sort out a few things. So education fund is key. One of the things also is if you didn't set yourself up in terms of thinking for maybe aspect around land and building at some point in your early 20s, then this is the time, because then if you don't start deliberately thinking about it, then you'll move into a cycle of rentals, and possibly, I mean, regardless of how much you earn, you can be able to start something like the other listener was saying that 3,000 goes to land and so on. So when you finish the land, then you can think about how to be able to construct as you go along. So those are some of the things that, especially at that age, and you didn't manage to sort yourself out in your 20s, that you can deliberately start thinking about it.
Okay. Where were you when I was in my 30s? Before we finish, somebody said, please, before you finish, can you say something about credit cards and debt within this age bracket?
Well, I think that's a fact of life. They are everywhere, ubiquitous. That's a tough one. Let me just say, they're everywhere, and they are easy for people to get them. But ideally, those ones should be like a stopgap measure, like you are really pressed for something, and then you can get it. But not to be used as like an everyday thing that you're getting into debt. So just try as much as possible to reduce on the debt. Probably there are those one-off instances that may require you to get into debt, but if you can be able to get yourself out of that treadmill of debt, this is the best time, because you realize that as you get into the debt, it's eating into your future income, because you'll have to repay the debt, or otherwise you'll get into the CRB. And that also limits you in the case that you might need a higher debt. Say you want to take on mortgage, for instance, your credit rating might be lower, so you might now just put you off here. So you may just as much as possible try to win yourself out of this other not unnecessary, but this numerous debt credit cards that you have, so that it gives you some space to take on some other income investment opportunities.
Okay. Gentlemen, unfortunately my time is up, but we need you back so that we can talk to the 30 to 40. I know there's quite a bit we can discuss there. But thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where 20-year-old, stop competing with other people. Save now. I'm telling you, you will thank us later. I hope you've taken to heart everything that has been shared. If you are in that age bracket of 20 to 30 years, begin to plan now, begin to put money aside now. Save, even if it's that 500 bob a month or even 200 bob a month, save and grow from there. By the time you're hitting your 40s, you will look back and you'll be smiling and you will say, hey, hawa watu walinisaidia sana. Even though hakunipatia namba ya fundi wa nguo, walinisaidia sana. Sawa sawa. Clinic imefungwa. Madaktari wanaenda kuhudumia wagonjwa wengine. Have a good day and God bless you.
Thank you for watching. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get notified whenever we upload new fresh content every day. Stay tuned and enjoy fresh, uplifting content.